Listen, your money is literally losing its power. Right now, as we speak, the cash sitting in your wallet is worth less today than it was yesterday. It's crazy to think about, but there is a silent economic shift happening entirely behind closed doors, and it's actively draining your wealth. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what the ultra-rich are doing in response to this and why you really can't afford to ignore it.
The middle class is traditionally taught to safely hoard cash for a rainy day. It's what we all learned growing up, right? But the elite, well, they know a dark secret. Saving cash right now, as we accelerate toward 2026, is basically financial suicide. Understanding exactly why that is your absolute first step to protecting yourself.
So let's dive into Section 1, the wealth illusion, and uncover the foundational flaw in our modern currency.
To really understand this, we have to rewind to 1971. This is the exact moment the rules of the game completely changed. Prior to this, our currency actually had tangible backing. But since 1971, the US dollar has been backed by absolutely nothing but a promise. Central banks can now literally print trillions of dollars straight out of thin air. And think about it. When money can just be printed endlessly, the cash you worked so incredibly hard for automatically loses its value. Which brings us to Section 2. The hidden inflation tax, and how it is quietly melting your wealth. Look, inflation is not just some natural economic byproduct. It's not an unavoidable force of nature. It is, for all intents and purposes, a hidden tax. It actively melts away the purchasing power of your hard-earned money. Think of it like a massive invisible leak in your bank account. Every single new dollar that gets printed dilutes the entire pool. So if your money is just sitting there doing nothing, you are silently paying this tax every single day.
And that leads right into Section 3, how banks rig the system, keeping you trapped in a rat race.
This right here is the exact loop keeping so many people completely stuck. It's a rigged game. Step 1, traditional banks take your deposits. But step 2, they absolutely do not lock that money safely in a vault. They turn around and immediately invest it in high-yield assets. Step 3, they generate massive profits using your money. And step 4, they hand you back a miserable fraction of a percent. Basically, you take on all the inflation risk and they take all the reward.
So how do we fix this? Let's move to Section 4, the elite wealth shift, and why you need to think like an owner.
This is the defining difference between the middle class and the ultra-rich. It's a total mindset shift. The saver hoards depreciating paper money and just gets trapped by the system's hidden taxes we just talked about. To break that loop, you've got to stop thinking like a saver and start thinking like an owner. An owner knows that holding on to cash is actually dangerous. So instead, they buy hard assets and they use debt strategically as a tool rather than falling into it as a trap. So what does that actually look like? Well, the elite are quietly moving their wealth out of traditional banks right now. They absolutely do not hoard paper money. Instead, they buy hard assets like real estate, they accumulate scarce digital properties, prime equity, and physical commodities. And notice that fourth point. It's a real game changer. They use debt to acquire these appreciating assets without having to spend their own cash. Finally, they build distribution systems that literally pay them while they sleep. They are securing themselves behind a modern shield of real, tangible value.
All right, finally, Section 5, the new rules of money, because the global landscape has completely shifted. So the only question left for us is this. Are you ready to stay ahead of the matrix? You now know for a fact that your cash is melting. You know the banks are leveraging your own deposits for their massive gains. The financial landscape has changed forever, and the old rules simply don't apply anymore. Will you adapt to these new rules of wealth generation? Or will you just get caught unprepared and left behind in the rat race? If you want to make absolutely sure you're on the winning side of this massive wealth shift, you need to subscribe immediately to stay ahead of the matrix. Because in our very next explainer, we're going to break down the exact 3 assets the 1% are buying right now to protect themselves. Don't get caught unprepared. I'll see you in the next explainer.